Dave, you've done a little bit of thinking about this. What has been polarizing about this ad, ironically, given that it's an ad to try and dial down some of the polarization issues?
Yeah, well, one bit of me wants to go, it's America, so of course it's going to be polarized. Every simple flipping thing about America is polarized. I studied in the United States for a year 30 years ago now, 1993 to 1994, and the first thing that struck me, even back then, was just how utterly polarized every single issue was in that culture. I presume even more so now. So what's polarized? Well, just by being a thing, it's got polarized. But it's annoyed a lot of we might call more conservative Christians because their critique has been this just hasn't been an actually accurate depiction of what the whole Jesus foot washing thing is all about. But more than that, has it actually played into and reinforced some assumptions about the way the world works that actually aren't true? What's really interesting is if you work your way through this sort of all these different images of people having their foot washed. I did a little piece on my website a couple of weeks ago of the 12 different images, and they're really well done, I've got to say. Like the quality is really clever and there's engaging images. But of the 12 images, 9 of the 12 fit into what you might call a classic victim oppressor narrative. So, you've got a cop washing the foot of a black man, and the sort of shades of the BLM sort of protests in the background. So it's the reversal of the way that we've been told to think the world works. The bad cops defund the police, BLM protesters protesting against the oppression of this culture. Well, that gets flipped around and here's the point of the ad, because Jesus doesn't function that way. So the cop comes in and he loves this black guy. And by implication, therefore, what Jesus wouldn't be doing is what would normally be happening is a cop hating on a black guy. Or again, you get an anti-abortion protester who you see washing the feet of presumably a teenage mom who's going to go into the clinic. Now, what's really fascinating about that one is in the background, you've got a bunch of other anti-abortion protesters, and they're not portrayed as like sort of angry, hectoring. They're kind of actually pretty chilled, are leaning on a fence or something with their placards to their side. But the same thing's going on. Just think about what's happening there. They're telling me Jesus, what would he be doing in that situation? Well, Jesus isn't a hater. He's a lover because he gets you, girl that's going into the abortion clinic. So Jesus comes and he washes the foot of the teenage pregnant crisis pregnancy mum. By implication, therefore, he's not doing what that anti-abortion protester would normally have done, oppressor victim narrative, which is actually, according to the picture, calmly and not in a really aggro way, protest against abortion and actually call out to say, look, please don't kill your child. So even that kind of gentler act of being at an abortion clinic and saying to women coming in, please don't kill your baby. There's got to be a better way. That, according to the paradigm which the ad is communicating, that's hateful. So
you think, look, are we straining at gnats and swallowing camels? Because some people are saying it's getting the idea of Jesus out there, and people looked up Jesus online when after the ad. Like if it had been a beer ad, maybe they'd have looked up beer. But that's how advertising works. But what's it missing in your view then? Because you've said what you can see why it's touching on some of the issues that people think, well, if you're a Christian, you hate on some of these types of people.
Yeah. What's it missing? Well, I think my God is it's missing who Jesus actually is and what he's actually come to do. So one of the main premises of advertising is you do speak to people's felt needs, but in order to then pivot them to what their actual need is. So in one sense, this is an ad that speaks to the felt need of a certain segment of society in America whose understanding of Christians and more conservative ones, let's face it, is that that's hateful. It's been oppressive of them, and so on. And so Jesus kind of he gets you. He gets you on that. He understands what that's like, and he meets you in it. Except that it's done two things.
Do you think that's just tapping into, say, the seeker sensitive movement of the late 70s into the 80s, right?
Yeah,
It feels like that was, we scoff at that because it's a bit consumer driven. But surely
yeah,
an ad doing that is probably saying, what is the felt need of this person that I could address in a same
yeah,
consumption model? Because it doesn't feel
yeah.
like it's very. Um, I want ads to be a little bit more shocking than that, I think.
Yeah, you kind of. Well, yeah, I think you and I, because of the way we are, we want to be a little bit more provoked, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Well, the critique of the seeker sensitive movement was, did they ever get to the gospel?
Mm,
And that's kind of the critique here. Where's the gospel here?
yeah. Did you
So
see
there's a
the Northern Irish young pastor in an hour or so put together a video called "He Saves Us"?
yeah. So
Using
a guy called Jamie Bambrick from Hope Church, Craigavon, he's put together this
I used to
this
live
video.
in Craigavon, by the way, in a housing estate in the early 80s in Northern Ireland on the outskirts of all the troubles. Heady times
Yeah,
indeed. But
yeah.
yes, I noticed it. And it's very well put together video if you're going to provoke and showcase Jesus' superpower. I think that's what I would say. Do you think the first ad kind of failed on the level of marketing 101 because it didn't lean into the difference that Jesus is?
Well, I think that's one of it. I want to say a couple of things. I think one, it bought into the. So people have a perception of what's going on in the world. Everyone's got their way of viewing the world. Increasingly, for many, it is this kind of victim oppressor paradigm, which comes from critical theory, and the books have been written about that. Uh, and what it does, I think what it did is it just buys into that and does no more than that. And the thing that is striking about Jesus is wherever he walks and whoever he talks to, he challenges people's perceptions of the way that the world is. We're just preaching through John, the middle of John at church, and I just opened up John chapter 7, and we're going to preach Jesus going into Jerusalem on the Feast of Booths. And what's really interesting is his brothers say to him, "This is a great time to go to Jerusalem, Jesus. Everyone will be there. You can do like a sign, and it'll just be great. Everyone will love you." And Jesus goes, "No. It's not my time to do that. Besides." By implication, there's another sign I'm going to end up doing in Jerusalem that's far more effective. But then he kind of sneaks in undercover into Jerusalem, and rather than doing the "oh, I get you all, you're all great" kind of line, sorry, it sounds a bit cynical, but I'm feeling a bit cynical about this ad.
Really,
He actually,
it's not coming
he,
through in the tone.
he goes in and he basically tells them all how they're wrong.
Yeah.
And he basically tells them all, you just don't get what's actually going on. You're viewing the world in the wrong way. You're being hypocritical in the way that you make the assessments that you make. And what's really interesting is that he's an equal opportunity offender. So he starts with the Jews, which in John is the leadership of the Jewish nation. But then he turns to the crowd and he basically just rips into them as well for their hypocrisy too. So not that I'm saying we need to, let's find some people to offend and slap them in the face, let's have a duel. But Jesus challenges us. And there's nothing challenging about this ad. In fact, what it does is it says to people, some of whom are sinning. I mean, can we just say that clearly? So, I mean, there are complexities to the abortion debate. I want to get that. But it's not a good thing to kill your baby in the womb. There's complexities to the issue of same-sex attraction. But ultimately, Jesus is really clear on where sex belongs and how it should be acted into. But the Jesus of he gets us just comes in and goes, I love you, you're great. I do get you. And if there is any sense of a call to repentance, a change of life, it's not there in the ad. It's frankly not really there on the website that they call you to either. And so that whole thing is missing. And so what's striking about Jamie Bambrick's video is it's built around the premise that Jesus comes in and radically rescues and changes us, which is the gospel, right?